Hello and welcome to Off My Shelves, and in this episode we're going to be looking at Green River Killer, a true detective story by Jeff Jensen and Jonathan Case, and we will get underway. Now this again is one of the many books published by Dark Horse Comics, which we are looking at throughout July 2021 because we are marking the 35th anniversary of publishing by Dark Horse Comics, and this is perhaps one of my favourite recent reads really, and I'm sure I will revisit this book many times over, and certainly I found a new love for Jonathan Case as an artist, and I will be delving into anything he publishes from now on. But before I get too far, the build of the book first and foremost. It doesn't come with any dust jacket, and the size of the book is essentially the same as a deluxe edition, and so a little bit bigger than your standard trade paperback. It comes with sewn binding. It's a fully black and white book, and the pages itself are matte finish pages, so they haven't got that glossy quality to them. But yeah, to the story now. Now this is, as the book says, a true detective story, because the Green River Killer is obviously a real life serial killer in America, in Seattle. Now Jeff Jensen, the author, has got a real personal connection to this story because his father, Thomas, or Tom Jensen, was actually the lead investigator on it, and Tom is pretty much the main character in this book. It essentially follows Tom from when he first found out about the Green River Killer, and from modern day in the early 2000s when he's caught and they're trying to essentially build a case against him and get some closure for a lot of families. The book itself starts off in 1965 with a prologue that'll chill you to the bone, because a prologue that has the power of this one won't go out your mind easily. It really sets up the tone of the story right from the get-go really, because it shows this gentleman, who we later find out is Gary Ridgway, who is the Green River Killer, approaching a kid and asking the kid if he wants to play, and then before the kid realises what's happening, this guy stabs him. And the emotion on the faces that Jonathan Case creates, I would say that anyone who's never experienced the art of Jonathan Case will read these first few pages and instantly think, this guy is a strong artist on every level. He really challenges kind of the Chris Samney, the David Mazzucchelli, clean line, expressive facial features, just astounding artwork, to be honest. And this opening prologue really does blow you away really, because essentially what he was trying to do by stabbing this kid is find out what it would feel like to kill someone. Then before you know it, you are introduced to the backstory of Tom Jensen, and Tom Jensen kind of signing up for the Navy, then going on to become a police officer, and then before you know it, once you get through the early stages of Tom Jensen's life and his introduction to the Green River Killers, the story then jumps forward to the early 2000s when he is caught. And what they're trying to do is they are trying to build a court case against him, but he is making a plea deal. He is trying to reduce his sentence in some way, shape or form, and to do that he's giving the police extra information on bodies and people who he's killed that they haven't found or don't know about. The police agree to this because obviously they want to find closure and find an end to a lot of these open cold cases, because I think all told he killed about 47 or 48 people, and again when he was originally caught he was only charged with around 7 or 8 of those murders, so there was a gigantic amount of people that hadn't been accounted for, and so all of them were pretty much exclusively women and prostitutes that he would pick up and then murder in different ways. And when the story actually kind of is flipping forward, it then kind of goes back and forth between Tom's timeline in investigating these killers from the 80s through the 90s and then to the early 2000s. And the story is so well structured that even though it's kind of bouncing around in Tom's timeline, you never really lose where you are. You never really lose concentration of to what time period you're in. It really is kind of structured and paced beautifully well. And it is a proper, true crime detective story. It's not overly glamorized. It's really grassroots detective story, you know, working its way from the ground up, interviewing thousands and thousands of people, taking down thousands and thousands of eyewitness accounts, crossing everyone off the list and keeping a contact list of all the people who were suspects. But either way, Tom is looking into this murder for at least 19 years of his life really, and he is absolutely obsessed with finding it and finishing it. And he's so obsessed that when he actually captures Gary Ridgway and starts talking to him about the murders, he's shocked that he can't remember all the really over-the-top details of the crimes he's committed. He even disbelieves at some point that the man they've captured is in fact the Green River Killer and responsible for all of these crimes, because he's so scatty and he doesn't know what's going on really. So when he's trying to guide them to the bodies that they haven't discovered, he doesn't really remember them. He doesn't remember the names or the places. Tom is really in a weird place because he's dedicated so much of his life to this case, and it meant so much to him that he's almost shocked and bewildered that the man he was chasing is so forgetful. But either way, the story really does a wonderful job of kind of looking at the opening days of these interviews with Gary Ridgway, but then equally bouncing back to get to that point where he was actually captured. So those two narratives kind of run simultaneously really, bouncing back between Tom actually capturing him, but also then looking at Tom modern day in the early 2000s, interviewing Gary and trying to find these unaccounted for bodies and people, and more than anything trying to find a meaning as to why he actually did it and why these crimes were committed in the first place. I don't think I can big up the writing and the artwork more in this book really. If you like crime fiction on any level, then this is definitely going to be right up your street, because the artwork in it is really top notch on every level. Like I said at the beginning, Jonathan Case is now an artist that I'm definitely going to be jumping in on, because I had barely heard of him. I read the first kind of opening pages of Dear Creature, which was one of his first graphic novels that he put out there, and so I instantly kind of bought that, but that hasn't arrived. And then I bought this, and this arrived fairly quick and devoured it within a day, to be honest, because I couldn't put it down. I wanted to find out about Tom and Tom's life and how he was affected, but it's such a good book in terms of how it's written really, because you really do feel for the characters, and you feel for Tom and his kind of obsessiveness with the case, and him trying to actually put meaning behind these killings when perhaps there's no meaning at all really. And yeah, it's the story of a normal person in very extreme, strange, violent circumstances really. But yeah, I can't say more than that about the Green River Killer. It is certainly well worth anyone's time. And to say it again, if you're into any type of crime fiction whatsoever, then this will be right up your street, certainly. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you on the next one.